In our headlines on this Wednesday, October 16th, here on the Korean Peninsula. North Korea refrains from media coverage of its recent detonation of inter-Korean roads on its side of the border, while U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell is here to address the latest security concerns. Meanwhile, findings by Statistics Korea show employment expanded in September by some 144,000 on year to a total over 28.8 million, with senior workers fueling the growth. And sales of books by author Kang soar well past 1 million as readers seek to better indulge in her works following her winning of this year's Nobel Prize for Literature. Breaking away from its pattern of bombastic broadcasting, North Korea's state media has yet to carry coverage of the regime's recent detonation of landmines to South Korea, and a pundit here believes Pyongyang may be seeking time to assess its latest actions. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
North Korea staying silent about its blowing up of inter-Korean roads on Tuesday. The North's main newspaper, the Nodongshinmun, did not carry any reports about the destruction of the cross-border roads that were once seen as a symbol of inter-Korean cooperation. Usually, the state-run news agency for readers outside North Korea, the Korean Central News Agency, runs reports of the outcomes of the major events early the next day. But as of Tuesday morning, the KCNA did not have any news either. This is in contrast to a previous case when the state media reported the North's demolition of the Joint Liaison Office in Kaesong in June 2020. At that time, the KCNA promptly reported the news on the same day, while the Nodongshinmun carried the report the following day. An expert says the regime is trying to assess the situation.
Up until now, North Korea has been pushing hard, issuing statements, taking military actions, and informing their citizens through state media. It seems like they are now taking a moment to see the reaction of its own people, South Korea, and the international community, including the US, before deciding to keep going.
Washington, on the other hand, voiced its concerns, with the State Department urging North Korea on Tuesday to stop actions that would increase the risk of conflict, while reiterating calls for Pyongyang to come back to diplomacy. A State Department spokesperson also added that Washington is monitoring the situation in the north in close coordination with South Korea. Meanwhile, group tours around the demilitarized zone, which were temporarily suspended on Tuesday following a request from the South Korean Army, resumed on Wednesday after a risk assessment. The tourist sites include the Tora Observatory in Paju, along with the Goseong Unification Observation Tower in Gangwon-do Province, locations where visitors can tour the DMZ area. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And here in Seoul on this Wednesday, senior diplomats from South Korea, the US and Japan have announced a fresh intergovernmental initiative to monitor UN sanctions on North Korea. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae-eun-ji has more.
In March, Russia blocked the renewal of a panel of experts that oversees the enforcement of United Nations sanctions on North Korea's nuclear programs. It vetoed a one-year extension, bringing an end to the group's 15 years of operation, leading to criticism from South Korea and other countries. As part of the international community's efforts to find a replacement, 11 countries around the world have agreed to establish the Multilateral Sanctions Monitoring Team, or MSMT. This was announced by South Korea's first Vice Foreign Minister, Kim Hong-kyun, and his American and Japanese counterparts, Kurt Campbell and Masataka Okano, who met in Seoul on Wednesday. They explained the goal of the MSMT is to publicly report on the implementation of North Korea-related UN sanctions, issuing critical reports on a wide range of topics, including North Korea's illicit cyber activities and maritime sanctions evasion activities. Calling this a remarkable achievement, the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State said Russia and China's failure to support the renewal of the UN panel of experts will not stop other countries from monitoring North Korea's illegal activities. For now, countries including South Korea, the U.S., Japan, France, and the U.K. have decided to join the intergovernmental initiative, and the three officials call for more support from other UN member states. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, further fueling the anxiety over regional security are reports of Moscow and Pyongyang taking steps to set in stone their military agreement amid speculation of a North Korean combat unit in Ukraine. Our Lee Jae has details.
Earlier this week, Russian President Vladimir Putin submitted the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty to the Russian parliament's lower house to be ratified. Assuming North Korean leader Kim Jong-un did the same during the regime's parliamentary meeting last week, it further solidifies military ties between the two. And that was seen in criticism from the Kremlin over allegation that Seoul flew a drone over Pyongyang. According to Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko, South Korea's recent actions could be branded as provocations that undermine stability and heighten tensions on the Korean peninsula. He emphasized that if an act of aggression occurs against North Korea, all necessary measures will be taken in accordance with Russian or North Korean law, citing the treaty signed by the two leaders in June. This has further fueled reports by Ukrainian media outlets that North Korea sent 3,000 soldiers to fight alongside Russia in that conflict. Reports say a battalion is being formed with the North Korean troops, which is being supplied with small arms and ammunition. It added that the battalion could be deployed to the Kursk Oblast in mainland Russia to fight off the Ukrainian offensive. Ukrainian media also reported that 6 North Korean soldiers were among the 20 or so killed in a missile attack in the Donetsk region earlier this month. However, Washington said while it was concerned about the reports, it did not independently confirm the reports. According to White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby, if reports are true, it shows a significant strengthening of North Korea-Russia defense ties. With growing tensions on the Korean peninsula, Moscow still remains relatively vague when it comes to supporting North Korea in case of a conflict with South Korea. As Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, the wording in the treaty is clear when asked if Russia would come to the assistance. Lee Jae, Arirang News.
Employment here in Korea expanded by well over 100,000 jobs on year in September, with senior workers seeking to actively join the workforce while those in their 20s and 40s stayed on the sidelines. Our correspondent Joseon covers these findings.
Employment in South Korea increased by more than 100,000 on year for the third straight month in September. Data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday showed that there were 28.84 million people in employment last month, up 144,000 from the previous year. The on-year job growth recovered to the 100,000 range in July and has stayed there for 3 consecutive months. But job growth was uneven across both industries and age groups. The increase last month was most prominent in the information and communication sector, with the figure going up by 105,000 on year. But the wholesale and retail sector fell by 104,000, the 7th straight month of decline and the sharpest decline since November 2021. The construction sector also fell by 100,000, the 5th straight fall and the largest drop since 2013 when relevant data for the sector was first compiled.
The construction sector is sluggish because of raw material costs and the decline in new construction. The wholesale and retail sector has been seeing a downward trend due to unmanned kiosks and online shopping.
By age group, job growth was mainly driven by those aged 60 and above, with 272,000 more people of that age in jobs compared to last year. Those in their 30s and 50s also saw job growth, but the job figures fell for those aged 15 to 29 as well as those in their 40s. In a ministerial economic meeting on Wednesday, the finance minister acknowledged the drop in employment in the construction sector and among young people, pledging to carry out more measures.
We have plans to improve the work environment for skilled construction workers to attract new workers to the industry, which has been experiencing a decline in employment. Employment training for young people will also be expanded.
He added that the government will also build an industrial ecosystem where companies have the capacity to continuously create quality jobs. Isujin, Arirang News.
On the local political front, by-elections are taking place as we speak to select Seoul's new superintendent for education and the heads of 4 additional regions, including districts in Busan and Incheon, and 2 counties in Jeollanam-do Province, Yeonggwang and Gokseong-gun. Voters have been heading to polling stations starting 6 on this Wednesday morning after 2 days of early voting last week. As of 4 p.m. this afternoon, the voter turnout stood at almost 18% here in Seoul and a combined 47.5% for the rest of the other regions. Voting ends at 8 p.m. and the results are expected to be available around midnight. Sales of books by author Kang have soared past 1 million as readers seek to better indulge in her works, following her winning of this year's Nobel Prize for Literature. Han, for her part, has kept her media engagement to a minimum by sharing her desire to simply and quietly write stories. Park Gon-woo has more.
The books of South Korea's first Nobel Literature Prize winner Kang are selling at an unprecedented speed. According to 3 major Korean bookstore chains as of 9 a.m. Wednesday, throughout the 6 days following the Nobel Prize win, over 1 million copies of Kang's books have been sold. It's reportedly unusual for several books by a single author that aren't new releases to have this many copies sold within a week. Sales of ebook versions reached around 70,000 during the same period. Along with their acclaimed literary work, The Vegetarian, Human Acts, and We Do Not Part have made up the top 3 most sold.
It's an unprecedented record because it's a challenge in itself to surpass 1 million copies in the digital era, compared to when it was common in the 80s and 90s. This goes beyond people just wanting to read the novel and shows their strong desire to own the actual book. The author's new releases will probably see increases in sales as well.
Despite her popularity, Han, during an interview with Swedish public service television company SVT, said that she doesn't want the spotlight and wants to stay quiet and peacefully thinking about the meaning of the prize. She also said she would like to concentrate on finishing her new novel and then writing her Nobel Prize acceptance speech. Han is set to receive her Nobel Prize in Literature at the ceremony held in Sweden on December 10th. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
In other news, concerns over deepfake sex crimes, especially those involving minors here in Korea, have led to pledges of tougher penalties to effectively punish and prevent related offences. Our Shin Ha-young covers these intentions and the tasks to be tackled.
Most suspects in deepfake sex crimes in South Korea are classmates of the victims. Young victims often continue to face their perpetrators even after reporting the crimes due to limited punitive measures. This is according to an official from the state-run Advocacy Center for Online Sexual Abuse Victims, highlighting that most of those seeking support are teenagers. Data from the Korean National Police Agency shows nearly 60% of victims reported between 2021 and last year were in their teens. Amid the rise in these crimes, victims commonly pointed out the lack of adequate punishments for offenders.
We surveyed 100 victims, and their biggest challenge was getting the content completely removed. Another issue was the lack of punishment for offenders. Victims feel that proper education and punishment are needed to help eliminate these crimes.
In response, the cabinet last week gave the green light to a bundle of amendments passed by the National Assembly that will impose tougher punishment for deepfake pornography. Under the revised measures, those who own or watch such content will face up to 3 years in prison or a fine of 30 million Korean won or around $22,000, while creators and distributors will also face harsher penalties than they do now. Police will be allowed to start emergency identity non-disclosure investigations into sex offenses against minors without prior approval. To better support victims, a legal basis will be established to expand and operate the Advocacy Center nationwide. An expert said other measures are also needed to ensure the strengthened penalties are effective.
To ensure punishment, we need to improve the efficiency of arrests and provide legal support that addresses the anonymity of deepfake sex crimes. This includes expanding the range of undercover investigations and supporting the officers involved. A coordinated government approach is needed, including preventive education.
The official from the Advocacy Center welcomed the move but also called for expanding undercover investigations to include adult victims.
Victims often only find out about the crime long after it occurs, leaving them frustrated as they can't track where the content is being shared. The victims include not only minors, but also adults, which is why undercover investigations should be expanded to include adult victims as well.
Meanwhile, South Korea unveiled a national cybersecurity basic plan last month, which outlines offensive cyber defense operations and strategies to tackle disinformation, including deepfakes. 신하영, Arirang News.
In its latest World Cup qualifier, Team Korea beat Iraq by 3-2 on Tuesday night. Playing in front of a sold-out home ground at the Yongin-Mir Stadium, Oh Se-hun scored in the 41st minute to give Korea a lead. But Iraq drew even just 5 minutes into the second half. Then Korea reclaimed the lead following a goal by Oh Hyun-gyu in the 74th minute and a diving header by Lee Jae-sung in the 83rd minute. Iraq added a stoppage time goal, but the Taeguk Warriors held on to their lead to sit on top of Group B. Korea is currently hosting a festival that sheds light on the final resting places of the kings and queens of the Joseon dynasty that are also on UNESCO's list of World Heritage Sites. Our Lee has this report.
In South Korea, the royal tombs of the Joseon dynasty are a rare example of tombs from an entire dynasty that have largely remained intact in their original state. These tombs belong to the kings and queens of the Joseon dynasty and the emperors of the Korean Empire dating back over 600 years. Designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Joseon royal tombs consist of 40 tombs scattered across 18 locations. This year's Korea Heritage Joseon Royal Tombs Festival once again brings history to life in these scenic surroundings.
Step into a fascinating time travel experience where nature, history, and art converge at the Joseon Royal Tombs. If you're looking to explore the rich heritage in a truly unique way, this is the place to be.
Connect with nature through diverse programs, including the creation of traditional cosmetics crafted from natural ingredients used during the Joseon era. For those seeking excitement, concerts challenge the boundaries of contemporary dance, featuring unique musical interpretations inspired by traditional Korean music.
It's autumn and the weather is nice. So I was looking for a place to go and I got to see the performance, and it's really great. The background is beautiful, making it a lovely experience.
The festival continues into the night, where the stories of the Joseon royal tombs come alive under a mystical sky.
Our Garden of Gods is an integrated performance that combines advanced technology and light with traditional dance and music. It guides the audience on a journey through Joseon's royal funeral rituals, from summoning spirits to building the tombs to the final resting place in the shrine.
Watching such a fun performance makes me happy. I'm having a great time here, taking pictures and enjoying it.
While the grandeur of the performance may be overwhelming for some young children, the festival includes a nighttime exhibition filled with media art. Thousands of holographic butterflies represent the hope that King Gojong envisioned for the Korean Empire, alongside beautiful lotus sculptures made from traditional Korean paper.
It's obvious that a lot of work went into making this event so grand. I really enjoyed it, but my child got a bit scared, so we had to leave early. Everything was nicely arranged in this garden, making it a perfect place for families with kids.
The 10-day festival runs until October 20th, offering a variety of activities and programs at 5 Joseon royal tomb sites in Gyeonggi-do province. Lee, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Pakistan is hosting this year's two-day Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, with leaders of the 10 member states gathered in the country's capital, Islamabad, on Tuesday. Top diplomats were seen arriving ahead of Wednesday's main conference, with the likes of Chinese Premier Li Qiang and the Indian Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar on a rare visit to the host country. Pakistan's capital has been under a strict security lockdown since Monday, with its government announcing a public holiday in Islamabad, temporarily shutting down schools and businesses, while large contingents of paramilitary and police forces were deployed across the city. While most heads of state declined the invitation to attend the Pakistan summit, the arrival of India's foreign minister marked the first visit by the rival country's top envoy in almost a decade. Li Qiang's visit is also the first by a Chinese premier to Pakistan in 11 years. The SCO, a Eurasian security organization created by China and Russia in 2001, is comprised of 10 member states: China, Russia, India, Pakistan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Belarus, the last of which officially joined the pact in July. Moving over to Japan, where urban rail network service provider Tokyo Metro has raised some $2.3 billion in its initial public offering, becoming the country's biggest IPO in 6 years. According to the company's regulatory filing on Tuesday, Tokyo Metro raised some 348.6 billion yen after pricing its shares at 1,200 yen, or roughly $8 apiece. Reuters reported that the offer was oversubscribed by more than 15 times, putting the IPO price at the top of the company's planned range. Currently, the Japanese government owns just over half of Tokyo Metro, with the rest of the shares owned by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. The two government bodies will sell half of their shares in this IPO. The stock is expected to be listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange on October 23rd. A Russian man has been rescued from the sea after his small boat drifted for 67 days in the northwestern Pacific Ocean, according to reports on Tuesday. Authorities in Russia's Far East said they discovered a vessel in the Sea of Okhotsk on October 14th, with one survivor out of 3 on board. The 46-year-old survivor set sail on August 9th with his 49-year-old brother and his 15-year-old nephew, who both died during the ordeal. The survivor has reportedly been taken to a hospital in serious condition. Finally, to the U.S. and the 51st annual Giant Pumpkin Weigh-Off in Half Moon Bay, California, where a 1,120-kilogram pumpkin claimed victory on Monday. The gigantic pumpkin, grown by Travis Ginga from Minnesota, won the competition by a mere 2.7 kilograms and a prize of $22,239. Ginga, describing the monster vegetable, said his pumpkin is well over 20 feet around, meaning it's, quote, a pretty big pumpkin, while spectators awed at the pinnacle of pumpkin cultivation. Now, Ginga previously set the world record for the biggest pumpkin in 2023, squashing the competition with the near 1,247-kilogram vegetable. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
It was chilly in the morning, but the temperature rose to around 24 degrees Celsius in the middle of the day in Seoul. Tomorrow there will be clear skies and temperatures will rise sharply. In particular, Seoul will rise to 26 degrees. The daily temperature range is wide, so make sure to take a jacket on the way to work. By tomorrow, waves will be high on the East Coast. There are places where high waves cross the seashores or breakwaters, so please be careful when approaching the waterfront. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will start off at 14 degrees. Highs will move up to 25 in Daejeon, Gwangju, Busan, and Jeju. Starting with Jeju Island tomorrow night, it will rain across the country between Friday and Saturday. Daytime temperatures in Seoul will also fall below 20 degrees from the weekend, and morning temperatures are expected to drop to the single digits. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the top stories at this hour here in South Korea. Thank you for watching. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us.